The next call is a split call. I call James Shaw, 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a great pleasure for me to rise as a Wellingtonian and as a Member of Parliament based in Wellington to speak on behalf of the Town Belt Bill as it goes through its final reading and enters law. As many of the other speakers have done, I would like to start by congratulating a number of people, starting with the Local Government Environment Select Committee, in particular the Chair, Scott Simpson, for shepherding this bill through and doing so, I thought, in a very even-handed manner with a very fine hand on parliamentary process. Also the officers who supported this bill, both the officers of Parliament but also, and in particular, the Wellington City Council officers who delivered to Parliament before the first reading a near-perfect bill, all pretty much ready to sail through. They had done a colossal amount of work getting the bill ready for entry into Parliament, a bill which was only messed with in a few but very important ways, which I'll refer to in a minute. But I think that they did a terrific job of getting it to the starting line of parliamentary process. I also want to pay tribute to the member for Wellington Central, Grant Robertson, who I have had the pleasure and privilege of standing alongside at a number of elections in recent times, alongside in recent years. While we have had, the bill has been in development since 2010 officially, Grant informs me that his first consultation with a key stakeholder on this bill goes back as far as 2001, when there was another MP in place at the time, and when the idea that he might become the MP for Wellington Central was merely a glint in Mr. Robertson's eye at the time. Most of all, however, I want to congratulate the people of Wellington, because whether you were heavily involved with this as a city councillor or as an officer or as someone who was involved with a local community organisation who made a submission on the bill, or whether you are a Wellingtonian who had nothing to do with the bill at all, you may be occasionally using the town belt, perhaps quite infrequently, but gazing out upon it often. Congratulations on the passage of this bill, which does secure the future of the town belt and its expansion and its health and its good management into the future. I think it is terrific that we are passing this bill, and I'm delighted that the Green Party is able to support it. I do want to, given that this is a debate a few points from an earlier speech given by another Wellington-based MP, Mr. Paul Foster-Bell, who I think painted an interesting picture about why it was that Clause 23 was swapped out from the original bill and replaced so that it would be subject to the Public Works Act. I think that Wellingtonians will be delighted to learn from Mr. Paul Foster-Bell that the government's changes to Clause 23 were entirely because of the probability that at some point in the future we'll need to string some electricity lines in an emergency over to Wellington Hospital, and had nothing to do at all with the government's intention to put a 7-lane motorway along the Ruahine Street side of the town belt. I'm sure that Wellingtonians will also be delighted to learn that the government's changes to Clause 23 were entirely because of the submission of the Wellington Chamber of Commerce and had nothing to do at all with the government's intention to put a 7-lane motorway through the Ruahine Street side of the Wellington town belt. It was a disingenuous point, and as my colleague Gareth Hughes said earlier, one weakly made. Mr. Speaker, the town belt is a huge asset in the natural capital of Wellington, and I think that we can look at it as if it was just a patch of land cloaked in green surrounding the city, but it is so much more than that. That is a huge part of the natural capital that makes Wellington what it is. It adds to our social capital. It makes what Sir Paul Callaghan called Wellington a place that talent wants to live. And it is an absolute delight to be able to stand in support of the bill as it makes its final way through the House. And I commend this bill to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Cool.